Is it visible on the screens? Thank you. Thank you. Yes. So it is the second day of my presentation and season. Uh, First, I have chosen the topic from the novel written by George Orwell, which is 1984. And the topic of my presentation of today is the purpose of Newspeak Dictionary. So, what was the purpose, and basically what the Newspeak Dictionary is? In fact, let us see. So here is the informative slide about the novel. 1984, also published as 1984 novel by English author George Orwell, published in 1949. So it was after the aftermath of the Second World War, and it depicts the totalitarian society and how it functions and what are the horrors of being in such society in kleptocracy. And supposedly we are focusing on this slide in the deceptive and manipulative use of the language, and then how one uses, how especially the politician uses the language to fleece out the masses. For a general example, I would give that how distortion of language happens. Suppose in, in 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 Gujarati we have that word fadar, sorry farad we have. So it is the clear example that it was in Sanskrit. It is the original word is fal ahar. So when you are fasting, you have to rely only on these fruits. But now, being a prince, or we can say being distorted version of this is Fadahar. And now this business company are not stepping back to take avail of that, our verbal policy. And we know that we are having these packets. We all are aware of that. So it is the clear, stark example of distortion of language. And how even a changing of word, even a single comma, it will lead to a kind of very destruction in all the things. So here you will see some of the glimpses that thought police is there and INSOC, and these three slogans are mentioned. Big Brother is watching you is the very famous line of quoted line. And hate week is also the propaganda, all kinds of technological wealth and totalitarianism. And this is the picture of the author George Orwell, and it's the novel's front page poster. Now let us move ahead. So it is the Newspeak Dictionary. We are just going to read the highlighted lines only because it will be kind of a bulky thing. The Ministry of Truth, Minitrue, and Newspeak. So it invents. So how does the Newspeak comes in existence? It is invented by this Ministry of Truth, where the Saimi, the one of the characters of this novel, is working. Okay, so now all that was needed was an unending series of victories over your own memory. So how languages overpower our memory. So the use of languages is focused here. Reality control, they called it Newspeak, double thing that we have two ideas, two contrary ideas in our minds, but yet we are functioning with both of them. Suppose somebody says I don't like this, and at the same time in his or her mind he can say I like this. So he or she functioning with both of these ideas. So it is double thing, and the very famous example is of that. Uh, this Winston is made to. He was rather forced by punishment of room 101 that you have to love people. You don't need to pretend that you love, but you have to really love. So you can see this kind of penetration deep till the emotional regime of a character. And in the fifth chapter, we can say in the fifth chapter, the mention of Saimi is found. So how Saimi mentions about the Newspeak Dictionary in the fifth chapter of the novel is found. That Saimi was a philologist, a specialist in Newspeak. Indeed, he was one of the enormous team of experts now engaged in compiling the 11th edition of the Newspeak Dictionary. It means that 10 editions were there before this edition. So it was 11th edition. So and we can know this time lapse how long these people are subdued by this play of words. And now it is the another. Let us see how the distortion of word happens. Suppose here, so in the same aforementioned chapter, so in the fifth chapter, the dialogue occurs between Winston and Saimi regarding Newspeak Dictionary. So we have that sequence in movie. We have seen this. The Saimi and Winston both are sitting in the oak tree kind of cafe, and they both are discussing some things. It is about this that Saimi speaks. Take good as a word. For instance, if you have a word like good, what need is there for a word like bad? So it curtails our powers. That suppose we have that. Suppose we have to criticize this false propaganda or this exploiting policy, but we don't find word because words or the language is something that it is very much preferred means to express the human feelings. So they are curtailing words. That is why the importance of this dictionary remains here. So curtailing word becomes to enslaving the people. And bad, so ungood. So instead of bad, it is kind of kind of very harsh word if you taken in context of this novel. So instead of that, you will use ungood will do just as well, better, because it's an exact opposite which the other is not. It is called euphemism, right? Euphemism, ungood. So being a bit more polite than what is harsh. So euphemism is also used. We can see. Let us move ahead. So it is now the purpose of Newspeak Dictionary. So what was the basic purpose? As we discussed, it was to curtail the minds of people and thinking process of them so that they cannot criticize the government and their policy. The main purpose of Newspeak Dictionary was to curtail the freedom of speech. So as somebody was talking that that for freedom, that one of that freedom of speech, so it was curtailed by the Newspeak Dictionary by degrading the standard of words, as we said, good and ungood, and by lesser down and by this degrading the number of words as well, and suppress the people of Ingsoc state who oppose the policies and propagandas of the party led by Big Brother. So it is symbolic representation of the language which is limited. So the language which is limited. So one thing is that suppose if we take the English language for example, then we can say it is the language of thriving, constant thriving language. So that it became global language. Why did it become a global language? Because it has the quality and flexibility. It is in their nature. Suppose time and again these new words are coming up in this language. So it is kind of a, just flowing language. So anything that flows will remain constant. But this is the language which is limited, proposed by so the existence of this Newspeak Dictionary will remain only within the time limit when this government is ruling the things of party. So now, why this limitation is happening is in order to repress revolt. So whoever is revolting, obviously they will not have good words for the government. So to repress their revolt, they will have to curtail the words. They will have to remove the bad words, which can be used to criticize the government. So it is the purpose. And another thing is dwindle down the free speech of the subjects. Now we have seen 85% are the only trolls. 2% only are the government officials and 31 are sorry 13% are government official and 2% are only against this the party of the Big Brother. So 85% people are pros who do not even know whom they are being ruled by. So dwindle down the free speech of the subjects, eventually making them obey. So making them obey what the tyrants say and command. Suppose we can remember that Wilfred owns that war poet Dulcet decorum, yes. So there is a last stanza occurring that we can say how this old lies. He mentions of this old lie. This lie is that there is a stanza that my friend, you would not tell with such high zest to the children ardent for some desperate glory. Now, this old lie dulls et decorum est pra patria mori. So, these people will tell you that, okay, these three slogans, war is peace. So, it is the old lie. To die for your own country, it is the old lie. It will bring you good, it will bring you this kind of fame. It is not so, but it will bring the disaster and death instead. So, it is the old lie. We can refer to also that Wilfred Owen's poetry, dulls et decorum est. Now, we can illustrate it by the point of view of Saimi. Saimi is a kind of crooked character in this novel, as he finds pleasure in destruction of words. So he says in one of the conversations that, okay, I like to destruct the word and destroy the words. Opposite to the liberal and flexible, as we have mentioned earlier, that opposite to the liberal and flexible nature of any thriving language. So it is the thriving language like English. It is constantly thriving. So that is why it became the global language. Why not any other language in the world? It is constantly thriving and it is taking word from every other region. And Lang, now he is a critic. Lang states that language, in other words, is a mirror of society and its history, arguing that if one can control the language, so as we have in the 1984, if one controls the past, controls the present, and if one controls the present, controls the future. So it is that one can control society by just controlling the language. See this minute aspect of our daily life, this language. If you control somebody's language, you can rule over them. So we have to be aware of this language, which by and large, mostly I learned from this novel. And thus, the control of language is ultimately the final step to a perfected totalitarian power. So it is that. So you will find any totalitarian leader or any autocrat like Adolf Hitler is there. So they are using it. They are very much excelled at making first chance or you can say that fake speeches, or to and whom they will be accepted by these emotionally susceptible people, that you will have to tell only towards, they will just fume on that. So it is the thing, it is the danger of this thing. And now I have taken some critical review, and Tom CP argues that Orwell's appendix on Newspeak suggests that Orwell also provides the appendix at the end of the novel about this dictionary, suggests that the relation between words and their meaning are one-to-one correspondences. So words and their meaning, as we have as we have seen in this Fadahar and Falahar. So how this difference can be seen? So it is the word and their meaning. So if you distort even a single comma or anything, then the whole meaning will be distorted. So see, Birel Lang maintains having a limited vocabulary will limit one's world view, because if we lack the means to formulate or think of an idea, it is likely that we also will accept the world for what it is. Right. So whatever is told to you, if you do not have many further expression or the means for your expression for the, you will be limited. Suppose I tell you that 2 plus 2 is only 5, then you will not think of 2 plus 2. Why can't it be 4? So it is the suppression. Unless you are a thinking mind, it is the another matter, right? So you have that spirit, as George Bernard Shaw says, question, exam, and test. You must keep this spirit with you. Only then and then you will have that civic sense rather. So it is kind of aimed at here. And Jean-Jacques Coutin, among others, argues that totalitarian regimes aim to keep people under surveillance. As we said, Big Brother is watching you in every part. Even in their home, there are cameras and surveillance devices. And control that is both visible and invincible. With Newspeak, this control is the unseen one that is unconsciously establishing itself in the citizens of Oceania. So unconsciously establishing the power. So they are not directly told that, okay, we are giving you this dictionary and by that you will have to follow. No, we are just proposing this dictionary, and in all the field you have to use this dictionary also, and the word used by this dictionary also can be, you can say, authenticated by the authorities. So authorities obviously goes of this totalitarian state. It is that, and so this is the propaganda as well. His research argues that, of whom's research, Jean-Jacques Coutin, that the limitation in language will limit the room for the resistance of totalitarian regimes, stating power must thus become master of language, since language is the living memory of man and offers him a space for inner resistance. So resistance comes. Suppose you have the feeling of resistance towards somebody, and how will you express that? By language. And suppose you don't have that language, you don't have that word. How will you express this? Right. So basic aspect is the language, and these people are working on that language to control the things. Stephen Blackmore further expands on what the process of the reduction of a language looks like, and argues these changes mean that the inner party will never stop working on fixing, or rather destroying, the language, because the satisfaction of eliminating individual thought will never be fulfilled. So anybody who wants to rule forever and wants their progeny to rule upon these people, they will keep on fixing, or rather destroying, the words. They will keep on controlling the language. They will not provide more room to people so that they express their mental anguish toward any other thing. So it is the characteristic of totalitarian government. And it's the summing government. So I have taken several memes here so that I can delineate it further in a good sequence. So very first is who controls the past, controls the future, who controls the present, controls the past. Now, what is that? What does that mean basically? Who controls the past means who controls the history, who controls, rather who presents the history in front of these ignorant people in a distorted version, right? Controls the future. Now, these kind of people will be leader of them, because they are taking shelter of history, but in a distorting manner. And who controls the present, controls the past. Now controlling present by the help of history, it is the controlling present, and controls the past. So it is the controlling past, because I hope you are getting that if you present any distorted version of any kind of historical topic, then you are presenting in present, but you are controlling the past, right? It is the unjustful thing. Another thing we are right now seeing that in Taliban. So this freedom of speech, and this guy is telling something, just doing some. There is written something very minute. Okay, just doing something. It is like the freedom of speech is being erased by the pencil. And here is the man with lock on his mouth, and it is the social media. As we say that if you are speaking something which is not liked by, and which is even true, and it is not liked by the government, they will block your Twitter account. As we have the famous example of Parul Thakkar. Rather, I don't want to go further into that matter, but it is the live example of that. So by controlling social media, you can curtail one's language and their freedom of speech. And the last one is that if liberty means anything at all, so if you want to give liberty to your people, then it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear, right? Because if we hear our sentiment, we'll get hurt. It is not so big. We have to listen to truths. Now, concluding the topic, we can safely say that by putting the concept of Newspeak Dictionary, Orwell has provided a new insight. So, a new insight. Before that, nobody was doing. Nobody was having that concept that we can control, or these people can be also controlled by the language. So, Orwell provides this new insight in his novel 1984, for looking into the minute things which construct the totalitarian ruling government. The making of Newspeak Dictionary, it is equalized by the forming up of limited and polite language. So, Biril Lang rightly states that language, in other words, is a mirror of society and its history. So, whatever we have as a history or literature, whatever, it is by the means of the language. So, language remains very crucial, or very a kind of cornerstone in our day-to-day life. So, it was the thing. So, here are my resources.
Okay, so questions. So he's asking Nilay.
Nirav, my question is how destruction of word is a beautiful thing.
So, your question is how destruction of word is a beautiful thing. Well, we have to keep in mind it is spoken by the sly or crooked character Saimi. Right? Saimi is one of the member of this Ministry of Truth organization. It is run by the inner party of the Big Brother. So, for him, it is good, or it is the beautiful thing to destruction of word. So, which is not a good thing. If you just remove a word, right, for the sake of your good thing, it is not good thing. It is spoken by that person. So we have to keep in mind the context of by whom it is spoken. So it is beautiful only by the crooked and sly people who want to support this totalitarian or kleptocratic government, right? So I hope you have got your answer.
There is another question.
Please do.
So my another question is why party members are forcing Wilson to love Big Brother? Why forcing?
Yeah, I am getting that. Your question is that why these party members are forcing only Winston to, not only, but Winston to love Big Brother, right? So, suppose they don't want to keep any room of a kind of opposition. Suppose if they leave them, okay, we want to leave. If you want to do whatever you want, whether you want to love or you don't want to love, but if they do, and they will have the kind of insecurity. If this person does something, that this person brings revolution by trolls, because this is an official person, so he knows everything about the party and how government functions, right? That the decreasement in kgs or sugar, and we know all the things. So that is why particularly upon this Winston, the punishment of Rule 101 is given, because he knows everything, and that is why it is even perhaps I'm not sure in our Indian army it is that if you are using a dog for spying on the other's territory, then the dog after doing the mission after a year, the dog will be killed, because it is kind of that kind of insecurity thing. But suppose this dog will be taken by this party, and this dog will be knowing everything about this side. So that is why he is being forced by these people to love Big Brother, not by just pretension, but by heart. Okay. So I hope you have got your answer. Okay.
My question is, how does Newspeak affect the society?
Wait, who is asking? Yeah, okay. Yes, now you ask.
How does Newspeak affect the society?
Your question is how does Newspeak affect the society? So I have been telling that it is the role of language which plays major role in shaping ideas and thinking process of the people, right? So that is why society means what? Society means the group of people of a certain kind. We call it society. So suppose if you want to control them, you have to hit on the basic aspect, which is language, and which is hit by this Newspeak Dictionary, right? You have to control words. You have to curtail their expression. That is why it is very good means, or not good, very a kind of say very basic means to control the society, control the people. That is why the very much effect of this Newspeak Dictionary is upon the society, yeah, especially of the Ingsoc, if we keep the context of this novel. Satisfied or something else also? Anybody? Yes. Hey, hold on. I'm just meeting this.
Nirav, you think as a journalist, Winston was a helpless or a coward? Like he can run or fight against Big Brother, but as a journalist, he didn't.
See, one thing is sir was telling that Winston was looking upon the lady marching. In the novel, the word is used, the lady marching on the clothes line. So perhaps he imagining, because Winston was a government official, and the only 30% of this progeny around of the oceanic state was only of the government official, 30%. So suppose if only Winston arouses the protest, nobody is going to support him because it's a complete kleptocracy or a totalitarian society, right? So Winston seems to be a cowardice. Element of cowardice is seen in his character. But the hope from the proles or these proletarians, right? So he hopes for that, and as a you can say, what is that, journalist? Yes, journalist. He's supposed to be inside of truth, but he's not doing anything. So a little element of cowardice as well as hope is seen in his character. Right? Satisfied or something else? Ask anybody else if you want. Okay.
Okay, so next presenter now.
Thank you.